everyone and welcome back to the Irish Mammy channel. It has been a while since I've put up a video, and I feel like I say that now in the last while every time I put up a video. But we've just gone through winter. There's not much gardening happening during the winter, and it's certainly not very inviting to go out in the cold and the wet. But having said that, spring is certainly in the air, and all those little signs and brighter evenings have given me the chance to get back out and do little small pockets of jobs. The first you see me here doing is potting on brassica seedlings that I sowed. I'm not sure if it was the end of October or into November. After finally giving up on getting a winter garden planted in the polytunnel, I sowed these very heavily in 6-pack trays and stuck them in the propagator with no heat. And they've just been sitting idly for the last few months. Now I realise there's a chance that they'll bolt, but at the same time I want to pot them up and have them ready to put into the polytunnel. So at the minute I still haven't fully prepped the beds in my polytunnel, but you will see this coming up. So I'm prolonging my seedlings by potting them on into bigger trays. That way they'll still be growing and maturing while they're waiting to get into the actual ground. So as I separate the seedlings here, I remove the bottom leaves. Some of them are going slightly yellow or even maybe are slightly damaged. And I'm burying them down good and deep into each of the trays. And there's various brassicas here. A few different types of cabbage, cauliflower and broccoli. They're the main ones I can think of off the top of my head. And on to another essential job, cleaning my propagator. So I gave my greenhouse a good tidy up and decided to scrub the propagator as well. I really don't think I've washed it in a long time. And it's just getting quite grimy, and of course you want the maximum amount of light to be able to filter into the seedlings. So giving it a quick scrub just with warm soapy water and rinsing it down really well, and hopefully that's another job ticked off the list for spring. I reassembled the propagator with just a single tier this time because it will be all seeds that I'll be starting very soon, and I want the lights to be as close to the seedlings as possible. And I almost forgot to wash the lids, one of the most important parts to wash, so we just gave them a quick scrub. Also a good time now to check that everything's working, that the temperature probe is working and the light bulbs. I had to change out my temperature unit, my thermometer unit last year, so I'm hopeful that it should be working fine this year. And I suppose like everything, they have a shelf life if you want. So I did get about 4 to 5 years out of the one that I had, and I'm now going into the second season of this one, and it seems to be working perfectly well so far. So I just put on the lights here, and I can see already that one of the bulbs is not working. I also have these on a timer, and I'm resetting the timer just to make sure that these plants get 12 to 14 hours of light a day. Plants, of course, also need darkness as much as they need light. So very clear here that one of the bulbs is not working. Thankfully I have spare bulbs on hand, and it's just a matter of changing out the unit on this one. And as usual, you can see in the background, starting to get dark. Story of my life, gardening in the dark. And here we are, finally it's the day for sowing seeds. I look forward to this day every year. It just really marks the start of the growing season. And I have plenty of compost left from last year, and it was kept in my covered little she shed you can see there behind the greenhouse. And compost keeps perfectly well if you can keep the rain off it, which is always a problem in this country. I'm using Classman organic compost here. And I tend to like to use their pot and on compost as well. They also have a perennial pot and on compost for the likes of your perennial herbs and shrubs or flowers as well. So you can see I'm just checking through all these trays to make sure there's no slugs. I did find one as I was unearthing them from underneath the table, so I'm keeping a good eye out for them while I'm filling them up here. The last thing I need is my poor little seedlings to be attacked by slugs as soon as they emerge from the soil. Hello everyone, today I'm finally getting around to sowing my tomatoes. Usually about mid to late February I would start sowing my tomatoes. That leaves them just about perfect for planting out 6 weeks later. Roughly around early to mid-April, weather dependent of course. If it's terribly cold outside, I wouldn't plant them out in the polytunnel until maybe the end of April or beginning of May. So fingers crossed we have a good 2 weeks in April, which we actually usually do. The first 2 weeks of April are usually good. So I just thought I'd go through the varieties that I'm planting today. A few new varieties, some old, tried and tested varieties, and I'm trying to show restraint. It's not working very well. Every year I tell myself, not going to grow too many tomatoes. And already I found one variety that I don't have that I've just ordered today, so I'm hoping that will be here Monday or Tuesday. I've paid for express delivery and all, so let's hope. So I'll bring you down here and I'll go through quickly the different varieties that I'm growing this year. Okay, so I have my seed tray ready to go. I like these windowsill trays for my propagator. I have the propagator all cleaned as well and shining. I think it's the first time I cleaned it. And you'll have probably seen that actually earlier in the video, but it's the first time I've cleaned in, I'd say, 3 years, and it badly needed it. It was definitely bugging, but I set it up yesterday, make sure the thermostat and all is working fine, and it is. I've turned it around. I'm not sure how that'll work, but we'll wait and see how it goes. I might turn it back the way I had it yet. So back to tomato varieties. Some of these I have pictures on the packets, some of them I don't. This is tomato tigerella. So I would have got that from Seedaholic, which is where I ordered more seeds from today. I like a nice variety of colours of tomatoes. I'm a sucker for all the different colours. I'm the same with chickens. I have to have multiple varieties of chickens that lay different colours eggs. It's just, it's all about the prettiness for me. Now I'm just noticing a wee slug. Definitely don't need one of those. Getting near my tomatoes so early. So let's dispatch that guy. I'll not show you murder in the greenhouse, just in case. The next variety is Muskotka. Now, I've known friends who've grown this and had great success with it. I mean, if you read the small print there, it's supposed to be a very productive plant. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I will probably plant one of these here in the greenhouse and the rest in the polytunnel. And of course, I have extra room this year with the polytunnel, which didn't really get much growing over the winter, but we'll make up for it hopefully in the summer. Now, this is a new variety. I have so many times heard Jess from Roots and Refuge Farm on YouTube talk about Brad's Atomic Grape and being so jealous because we could never get them unless we ordered from maybe Baker's Creek in America, which I haven't gone to yet, resorted to yet. I mean, I am that much of a seedaholic. It's highly possible in the future I will do that. But I was delighted to see that Brown Envelope Seeds have actually a good few of the varieties that I do see Jess from Roots and Refuge talking about. And this is one of them. You can see from the colour why it's called Atomic. There's like greens and purples and yellows, and it really does look class. And hopefully it tastes as good as it looks. The next variety, I've been looking for a yellow cherry that tastes good. Up till now, I've always grown the yellow pear, and it looks great, but I don't find the flavour really anything exciting. So this year, I think I'm growing 2 varieties of yellow cherries that I'm hoping will be nice. This as well comes from Wild Boar Farms originally in America, which again is another, Wild Boar Farms is a supplier that I hear Jess from Roots and Refuge talking about a lot as well. And I see on this it says it's a serious rival to Sun Gold in terms of flavour. So that was what hooked me on this variety. I absolutely love Sun Gold tomatoes, and I have yet to meet anybody who doesn't like them. So if this rivals Sun Gold and it's a nice yellow colour, it'll probably do it for me. Now, next, so you can see I have them marked out here. I'm going to do one cell of each of those. And this is a great way to sow seeds, sow a lot of seeds in a small space. And I actually done it with my brassicas. After so many failed attempts at brassicas, I finally gave in to sowing them and putting them in the propagator. And I done the same. I took like a 6-pack tray that you would, you know, you might get bedding plants in a 6-pack tray. Just showing you, this is an example of a 6-pack tray. Now I just have my labels in this, but multi-sowing huge amounts of seeds in each cell. So we'll say I'd sow cabbage in this one, broccoli in this one, cauliflower in this one, kale in this one, Brussels sprouts in this one, and maybe a different type of cabbage in this one as well. But the point is that I sow about, in this size one, I could sow about 40 seeds, maybe even more, to be honest. And I just potted on, this is what my seedlings are here. I potted on the brassicas that were sown, I'd say late October, after I realised I definitely wasn't going to get anything planted in my polytunnel. I only potted these on last weekend actually. And this is only a small amount of them. The rest I have moved up to the polytunnel because I was just running out of space here. But if you are stuck for space, particularly if you're using a propagator, it is a great way to be able to germinate loads of seeds in such a small space. So you can see this is a windowsill propagator. Now, I do still have one more variety of tomato. But what I'm thinking is 2 windowsill propagators should be able to germinate all my tomatoes, peppers and chilies. That's the plan. And then I will still have extra space for a few flowers and different things. Now, I have a big propagator. I think it's the biggest propagator. And this is the Geopod, I believe. It's like an upgraded version of the Vitopod. So the Vitopod, I think, comes without the lights. Whereas, that's in the way there. But the Geopod comes with the light system on it as well. now. I've had this, I'd say, for about 6 years at this stage. Still in perfect condition. I've had to obviously replace bulbs a couple of times. And the thermostat I've had to replace once. But all in all, it's standing me well for about 6 years of work. And it really does work for about 5 months usually. I mean, I'm usually starting it in January and it usually goes on the whole way to May, depending on the type of weather we're getting. Yeah, so anyway, I'll get back to my sewing. So I have each cell labelled. Now, some of them I have two. So these golden pearls, which I'm coming to in a minute, I have 2 cells of those. They're small basket, hanging basket or window box variety. And probably, well, I have one thing I want to do. I want to do a window box as an experiment at the front of the house. And I have one other little dwarf variety coming as well that I ordered today. But most of these I actually plan on giving away because they're an outdoor variety and take up such a small amount of space. Somebody with a hanging basket hook can grow these at the front of their house. So that's the plan. So I'll be experimenting with some of them myself and the rest will be going away. But I have 2 cells of those and I'm going to be sowing. Some of these varieties I'll be sowing 10 seeds per cell. Others I'll be sowing less. I could probably even get away with 15 seeds in each cell if I really wanted to push it. So anyway, this next little section, this is the one I was talking about for the hanging baskets. A cherry golden pearl, it's called. An outdoor semi-trailing type suitable for baskets or window boxes. So that's my second yellow cherry that I'm growing, and like I said, an outdoors variety. Now I will also grow one of them inside in the greenhouse to see what it's like in a pot in the greenhouse, or up in the polytunnel, one or the other. Then sun gold, I mean, I don't need to say much about sun gold. Most tomato growers know what sun gold tastes like and how amazing it is. It really is like eating grapes. Now, look, it has some downsides. It can split quite easily, but I think the taste and the texture of it far outweighs any of its bad traits. And then I have black cherry. I think I grew this last year as well. I didn't grow too many of them last year. But again, this is for the colour, you know. I like this dark colour, kind of darker shoulders on it. And I have a larger variety that's similar, looks similar as well. I really like this variety. Taste wise as well, it's another winner. Now on to some larger tomatoes. This is Marmond. These seeds are ancient. It says to sow by September 2020, but we'll push the boat out and take a chance. I really like this variety just for slicing for sandwiches or salads or whatever. It's nice and juicy, nice acidity to it as well. A balanced acidity with a little bit of sweetness there as well. This variety doesn't, normally Marmond is kind of fluted on the sides. This one doesn't look like it is, but I'm pretty sure it'll probably grow with fluted outside to it as well, which just means there's like little ridges in it. Dark Galaxy. Now this is going to be a bit of a mystery because it says it can grow to any size from cherry to a big and beefy variety. So I'm not sure what I'm actually getting here, but again, it was the colour that suckered me in, of course. And I've seen similar varieties to these. Again, on Roots and Refuge. I blame Roots and Refuge Farm for a lot of this obsession with tomatoes. And this is Tomato de Barão. I've grown this before as well, and I love this. It is a lovely smoky flavour. It's kind of like, it's hard to describe. It's different than any other tomato I've ever grown, except for Paul Robeson actually. It's similar to the Paul Robeson variety. But it has green on it. When it's ripe, it's still a slightly green colour. Usually mostly green shoulders on it. But it's a really, really deep flavoured tomato, which might sound weird, but I would encourage you to grow it just for the flavour of it alone. Last but not least, well, it's not actually last, but last for today, is Amish paste. I've grown this for the last 4 or 5 years. It's a consistent producer. And as you know, I like to preserve a lot of my tomatoes, so this will be one of my preserving varieties. The other variety that I want to grow, this is a very large tomato, and it can be used as a slicer as well, but it can sometimes be quite dry, so which is why it's better used for cooking and sauces and stuff like that. So I will be using that for preserving, for jarring up. The other main variety that I'm going to be growing is Roma, and another sauce variety or preserving variety of tomato. I grew them last year. I didn't support them last year. They are a bush variety, and I didn't support them thinking that they wouldn't grow too terribly big. But because I grew so many of them in a small space, I think I might have put 12 in like an 8x5 square bed in the polytunnel. So they were growing quite close together, and I just found they got all matted up and just basically turned into a bit of a mess. So this year I am going to grow them up strings, and I'm going to side shoot them a wee bit. When I read further into the variety, it did suggest side shooting them, which I thought peculiar since they're a bush, well, technically semi-bush variety is what they're called. So I thought it peculiar that it was recommending side shooting, but having seen how they grew last year, it's probably best to side shoot them. So what I might do is allow some of them to go wild, but still keep them growing up on a string, and side shoot the rest and keep them nice and tidy. Now, famous last words. Great intentions at the start of the season, but anyway, we'll see how that goes. So I'm just going to get these seeds all into their cells now, get them watered, covered with vermiculite, and get them into the propagator. Then I'll be bringing you on to the chilies and peppers. Okay, we're ready to go with chilies and peppers now. I have my trays all set up, and I'm just going to bring you down and show you the varieties that I'm growing of those. So I probably have less varieties of peppers and chilies than I do tomatoes, but it doesn't mean I grow many less at the same time. So I'm starting here with my 2 favourite chilies. This is cayenne, a nice long narrow one. I found several times in the winter where I wanted chilies and I didn't have any, so my plan with those cayennes is to dehydrate some of them whole, and then I would be able to just chop them up and use them in place of fresh chili whenever it's called for. The next variety I have is jalapeno. I love making cowboy candy with these. They're ideal for that. I also like to dehydrate some as well. I actually usually dehydrate them chopped, and of course you can freeze them chopped as well. And I would use them in chili and fajitas. All the dishes aren't coming to my mind now, of course, what I want. So the next are my normal sweet peppers. So these are California Wonder. This is a variety that turns red when it's ripe, and I'm growing 2 cells of those. I think I'm going to do 6 seeds in each of these cells as well, just like I did with the tomatoes. So that'll be 12 red peppers. And of course they can be harvested green as well. This is the California Wonder yellow variety. It ripens to yellow. So I'm only going to grow 1 cell of those, and the thought process is that between those 18 plants I should get an even amount of red, green and yellow. That's the theory anyway. We'll see how that goes. Usually it works out for me though, because it's what I've done in the past. This is Marconi red. It's a nice pointed sweet pepper. Nice thick walls on it, and I have found a secret to having a thick walled pepper. I mean, because even the California Wonder can be thin walled and horrible if it's not grown right. The secret is to give them plenty of water. We think of them as a heat loving plant, and they do love heat, but they also like lots of water, and that is what gives you the nice juicy wall to the juicy flesh, nice thick flesh to the peppers. Now of course some varieties don't have thick walls, but California Wonder are bell peppers, as are the Marconi red pointed bell peppers, which are supposed to have a thick wall to them, or thick juicy flesh to them. So the secret to getting that is to give them plenty of water. I mean, the same as your tomatoes, but less than your chilies. I have made the mistake in the past of thinking they like to be dry as well as hot, but I just ended up with very disappointing peppers, to be honest. The next one, now this will be mostly for giving away. I find these kind of colourful plants, colourful peppers do well. I mean, they're a small variety as well, and they do well in like plant sales and that, which I'm no doubt the GIY will be having this year, our local Grow It Yourself group. So while I'll probably keep one of these for the look of it, the rest will be for giving away or selling, to raise money, of course, for our GIY group. And another favourite pepper of mine that I grew last year, the Ancho Poblano. These are absolutely lovely when they're roasted and the skin's removed. They can be used in a vegetarian lasagna with these roasted green peppers in place of lasagna sheets. There's many uses for these, but anywhere where you need a slightly hotter pepper, they're not blow your head off hot, they're just a nice heat and a lovely flavour to them, which is what I really like them for. Not the heat, the flavour. So that's the varieties of peppers and chilies this year. Not a huge selection, but I will be growing plenty of them. I will have at least 1 full bed in the polytunnel. And I think these poblanos I'm probably going to grow here in the greenhouse to keep them separate. Last year I had all my peppers in the one bed and they were just all getting mixed up, including these anchos, which caused a bit of a problem when I had them chopped and frozen and was using them in dishes, and I still have some of them in the freezer. I have one child in particular who doesn't like heat, and while they're not terribly hot, he's just a little bit more sensitive to chilies. So I can only use those now in dishes that he's not eating, which is few and far between. So I'm going to get on with sowing these. Like I said, 6 per cell again. I have 2 spare trays here, and actually 1 from my tomatoes as well. Like I said, I do still have Roma tomatoes to grow. Tiny Tim is the other red dwarf variety that I'm growing, that's suitable for containers. And then Gardener's Delight, forgot I didn't have that. No seeds for it either, and I've ordered them today as well. So 3 more tomato varieties. So much for taking it easy on tomatoes. The intentions be good for going easy on tomatoes. And I know rightly I'll stick these all in the ground and grow them, and they'll probably get neglected half the summer, but I will still get a good harvest of tomatoes, and that's what I want to be guaranteed. So yeah, on top of the all the varieties of tomatoes that I'm only after sowing. I now have 3 other varieties at least. And oh yeah, I wanted to say as well, the Golden Pearl, which was the dwarf yellow cherry tomato that I was growing. When I was sowing my tomatoes, I opened the packet and there wasn't one seed left in the packet. Now, what sort of an idiot am I to put the packet away with no seeds in it? So I remember the shop, the garden centre, I got those in. I might make a run to that garden centre tomorrow. So despite my best attempt at having all my tomatoes and peppers and chilies sown on one day, looks like it's not going to happen. But they will be sown over the next few days. So now the other thing I want to say is these tomatoes and peppers and chilies, because I've so many seeds in each cell, they're going to have to be potted on fairly sharpish. So you're talking probably 4 weeks time for the tomatoes at the most, I would say. And a little bit longer for the peppers and chilies. They take longer to germinate and they take longer to bulk up, which is good because it means I can pot up my tomatoes and possibly leave them back into the propagator just for a week or two, depending on the weather. And then I'll have them out of the propagator before I pot on my peppers and chilies. At least that's how it worked out last year. It was really well timed, and I'm hoping for the same this year, because obviously when you pot on this many seedlings, you start to run out of space in the propagator. And the greenhouse here can still be too cold for the tomatoes and certainly for the chilies and peppers. Now, as it happens, sometimes we get a heat wave around Easter. Now, a heat wave for Ireland is like 15, 16 degrees. But nonetheless, it's enough to take them out and have the greenhouse at about maybe 20 degrees. Now, it's still cold temperatures at night, even when we do get warm weather. But I'd be happier taking them out and then fleecing them overnight if we had somewhat warm temperatures. So it's always a gamble that it'll work out. Sometimes I am left with huge big seedlings in the propagator all crammed in. They end up leggy, as you seen last year. That did happen to my tomatoes last year. Probably a combination of me not getting around to them, as well as the weather being too cold to take them out of the propagator. I find though, even being hit with cold, they still grow. The tomatoes will still grow. They might be set back for a wee while. They might, stop growing for a week or two. But they generally take off then once the good warm weather does come in the end of May and June. So I find tomatoes are generally much more hardier than we think they are. I suppose when we sow them and germinate them in propagators and they're so nice and cozy and warm, I think maybe we don't realise how hardy they can be. We've been babying them for weeks in a propagator and they've been nice and warm and cozy, and we don't like taking them out into the cold. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I do post new videos. That'll help you keep tabs of how the growing season is going this year.